I used to believe that family would always protect you, that no matter how invisible you felt, they saw you. Then one night, my brother raised a glass and told a room full of guests, "She's just a clerk." They laughed. I smiled, because right outside that building, etched in gold letters no one could ignore, was my name, not his, mine. I didn't need to interrupt. The truth had already arrived before I did, and when it spoke, it echoed louder than every lie they'd ever told about me. This isn't just my story, it could be yours too. It was 2:13 a.m. when my phone lit up with Mom. I blinked, disoriented, thinking something had happened, an accident, a hospital, a fall. I answered immediately. "Mom, what's wrong?" Her voice was calm, almost annoyed. "Do you remember the Wi-Fi password for that nail salon I go to? The one with the pink chairs?" My mind struggled to catch up. "It's 2 in the morning, I murmured. "Yes, and my appointment is at 9. I'd rather not ask them again. It's embarrassing." I paused, swallowed hard, then pulled out my laptop to search my old emails. That wasn't new, none of it was. This woman, my mother, called me at all hours for things she could Google. The worst part? I always answered. Always complied. Somewhere along the way, I had become the family's 24/7 help desk, therapist, and emergency fund. Growing up, I assumed my role as the quiet one, the helper, meant I mattered. I covered my brother Nathan's law school debt, even though he never finished. When my sister had a baby at 19, I sent monthly grocery stipends for 3 years. I co-signed for my parents' second mortgage, and I never made a scene. Not even when Nathan used the business seed money I gave him to buy a Tesla before launching his so-called startup. People always say, if you love your family, you don't keep score. But what if the scoreboard's been erased completely, and no one even remembers you were ever on the field? That morning, after the call, I couldn't fall back asleep, so I opened Instagram, hoping to distract myself with cat videos or cake reels. That's when I saw it, a tagged story. Nathan Hart's 40th birthday bash. The caption danced under fairy lights, champagne, and a crowd of familiar faces. My family, laughing, toasting, celebrating. I tapped through the clips, stunned. My mom in a sequined dress, my sister giving a speech. A custom cake shaped like the company building, my building. And yet, I hadn't received an invite, not even a text. Confused, I sent a quick message to our family group chat. "Wow, looks amazing. Happy birthday, Nathan." The message sent. No response. I refreshed. Still nothing. Then I checked the members list. My name wasn't there. There was a new group, same faces, same title, but without me. For a moment, I thought I had made a mistake, but then curiosity turned to instinct. I pulled up an old device, one I hadn't used in months, where my iMessage wasn't synced yet. That's where I found it. Weeks of messages, jokes at my expense. Comments like, "Emily's probably working late again in her little cubicle." Or she'd make the party awkward anyway, too serious. My mother had written, "She always wanted to be the center of attention. She's better off left out." And then came the worst one, from Nathan. "She's just a clerk. Let her think she matters." I froze, not out of anger, but because I felt something deeper, like a fracture inside me had finally split wide open. All those years of giving, of keeping quiet, of playing the good daughter, it was never seen, never valued. I wasn't invisible because I chose to be. I was invisible because they chose to look away. I sat with that silence for hours, the room dark, except for the glow of the screen. Eventually, I pulled up the last video from the party. A man I didn't recognize, probably a guest or colleague, stood outside the venue with a glass of wine. "Isn't this the building Emily Hart designed?" he asked. "I thought she was the brains behind this company." Nathan laughed off-screen. "Nah, Emily's just a clerk, handles admin. She's not involved in the real stuff." The man squinted toward the front of the building. The camera followed his gaze. There it was, subtle, almost hidden, but still visible under the warm lighting. Property acquired and renovated by Emily Hart, founder, EH Solutions. He leaned in. Then why is her name on the building? The video cut off there. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. Not from pain, but recognition. Someone saw me. Accidentally, maybe, but still, I was seen. And in that brief flicker of light, the story they'd written about me, quiet, small, forgettable, started to unravel. I closed the video and sat back in my chair. My fingers shook, not from fear, but from something dangerously close to clarity. I wasn't just excluded. I was erased, not forgotten, erased. I remembered a day when Nathan and I were kids, building Lego towers in the living room. I had made a fortress, balanced, symmetrical, bold. He knocked it down laughing, then used my bricks to make his own version. "It's better this way," he said. I didn't cry. I just rebuilt it when he wasn't looking. That night, I didn't cry either. But I knew one thing. This time, when I rebuilt, they'd see it, and no one would dare call it theirs. When I was 27, I asked my mother why she never encouraged me to date. She was folding towels in the laundry room, her face expressionless. "You don't need a man, Emily," she said. "You have us. This family is your life. That's enough." At the time, I took it as love, a strange, quiet kind. Years later, I realized it wasn't love, it was a leash. The first real crack came disguised as a formality. A call from my bank about an unusual transfer from one of my investment accounts, one I hadn't touched in over a year. "You approved a wire for $80,000 yesterday," the banker said. "Just confirming you authorized it?" My heart stopped. "No, I didn't." They sent over a PDF of the authorization form. At the bottom, in clumsy cursive, was my signature, or what looked like it. But I hadn't signed anything. The document was dated the day before, when I was in a board meeting across town. I drove straight to the branch, heart pounding, and demanded the source. Until the banker pulled up the account log and casually said, "The transaction came from a joint access profile with Nathan Hart. Is that your brother?" I couldn't speak. Somewhere along the way, my trust had turned into paperwork. My silence had become consent. He'd forged my signature, and the bank had let him. I called Nathan. No answer. I left a message. "Call me back, now." Instead, I got a text. "Don't be dramatic. We'll talk later." The audacity of it made my stomach turn. But before I could spiral, another message came through. This one from my Aunt Lillian, my mother's younger sister. "I heard something. You might want to come by, alone." We hadn't spoken in years. She lived in a modest bungalow, an hour away, and was mostly kept out of family gatherings. Growing up, I thought it was because she was eccentric. Now I wondered if that was a label someone else gave her, someone with more to hide. When I arrived, she greeted me with tired eyes and strong coffee. No small talk. She handed me a brown envelope. "I kept this," she said. "Your father gave it to me before he passed. He didn't trust what would happen after." Inside was a will, dated 6 months before my father's stroke. A legal, notarized will. My name was on it. My name, twice. He'd left me 60% of the real estate holdings, including the building Nathan now claimed as his. He'd written a note in the margins. Emily built this with me. She should carry the name. I stared at the paper like it was on fire. My chest constricted. Why didn't I know about this? Lillian looked away. Your mother said it was better not to stir things up, that it would confuse everyone if Nathan wasn't listed as the primary heir. She buried it, I whispered. They all did. She touched my hand gently. You don't know, Emily. Your mom and Nathan, they're not who you think they are. Those words landed like a punch. And still I didn't cry. Instead, I went home and opened every drawer, every file, every email I had access to. I downloaded bank records, printed call logs, set up cloud backups. I bought a voice recorder and slipped it into my purse. I wasn't ready to confront them, but I was ready to stop being blind. That night, I sat at my desk, eyes burning, hands trembling, staring at the will again. If you've ever felt like the shadow in your own family, I whispered into my recorder, like you were tolerated, not treasured, you're not alone. I see you, I was you. The rain began around midnight, tapping the windows like an old song. I left the house, no umbrella, and walked. I needed the cold. I needed to feel something other than betrayal. For blocks, I wandered through the storm, replaying every moment I had said yes when I should have questioned, every time I'd smiled when I wanted to scream. Had I imagined it all? Had I been too eager to belong? But the will in my coat pocket told me otherwise. So did the bank transfer. So did Lillian's trembling voice. No, I wasn't paranoid. I was finally awake. And they were about to learn what it meant to underestimate someone who knew how to disappear, watch, and wait. Silence is an underestimated weapon. It makes people think you've surrendered when really, you're sharpening your blade. That's exactly what I did. After the visit to Aunt Lillian and the discovery of the will, I didn't confront anyone. No texts, no calls, no accusations. I simply vanished. Not physically, but in every way that mattered to them. I stopped replying in the family chat. I missed 2 Sunday dinners in a row, something unheard of for me. My mother left voicemails with escalating guilt. You're being distant. Your brother is worried. We're a family, Emily. I let the messages pile up. I said nothing. Next, I started pulling back access, quietly revoked Nathan's name from the joint investment account I had unknowingly shared, called the bank, and restructured my business profile with new legal protections. I even froze the autopay on my mother's utilities, something I'd been covering for 5 years without a thank you. I changed the passwords to my cloud folders, installed 2-factor authentication, cut off the supply line. Meanwhile, I built. I met with a lawyer recommended by a board member I trusted, a woman named Jillian, mid-40s, sharp as glass. She read the forged documents, the will, the transfer history. Her lips tightened. You have a case, she said, a very strong one. I also hired a forensic accountant, a quiet man named Rafi, who rarely made eye contact but noticed everything. Within days, he sent me a spreadsheet, misused funds, false signatures, a money trail leading to multiple shell accounts, all linked to Nathan. He's not even subtle, Rafi noted dryly. Greed makes people sloppy. My third call was to an old contact from a Women in Business conference, a PR strategist. She agreed to help me, discreetly, prepare for a potential reveal, something controlled, not chaotic. I didn't want to burn the house down. I wanted to own it. One morning, in the middle of this storm I was orchestrating, I got an alert from a commercial real estate site I followed. A new listing had gone live, our family building. The one Nathan claimed to own. The one my father and I built from nothing. Asking price, $5.2 million. I clicked the listing. Photos of the lobby I had designed, the rooftop garden I had paid for, the office layout I had spent months planning, all of it being sold. My hands clenched around the phone. I called Jillian. If he signs that deal, "You can sue," she said calmly. "Easily, and you'll win. You own 70% of the initial capital. We've got the proof." I took a breath. Then let him sign. That night, I did something I hadn't done in years. I emailed a journalist. Sophie Rains, now a mid-level features writer at a business journal, used to be the intern I mentored back when I was still building my first project. She remembered me, still had my number. We met at a small cafe downtown. "I'm not asking for a full exposé," I said. "Just a human interest piece about unsung founders, people who get erased." I didn't give her names, didn't name the building, but I gave her enough. The forged signature, the family betrayal, the hidden will. She nodded, recorded everything, asked smart questions. "This could go viral," she said. "It feels like a parable." I shrugged. "It's just truth." The article dropped a week later. Title: "The Ghost Behind the Glass, When Family Writes You Out of Your Own Story." It didn't say my name, but people recognized the building, recognized the clues. And within hours, the piece caught fire online. Anonymous comments poured in. "This is my story too. I have a brother like that. I gave everything to my parents, and they never said thank you." Somewhere in the swirl of retweets and threads, someone tagged Nathan's company, then tagged the building, then posted the image. "Property acquired and renovated by Emily Hart." People connected the dots. I sat at home watching it unfold, hands trembling, not from fear, but from something else. Relief, not revenge, not satisfaction, just being heard. That night, I sat in my living room with my laptop on my knees. I scrolled through hundreds of comments, some angry, some grateful. One simply said, "Thank you for not staying quiet." My vision blurred. I hadn't expected that. I thought I was doing this for justice, for the money, for the name. But in that moment, I realized I was doing it because silence had almost killed me. For the first time in my life, strangers saw me, and I didn't feel invisible anymore. The night of the gala was colder than usual for spring. The kind of chill that makes you instinctively cross your arms, even when you're dressed for power. I wore black, clean lines, nothing flashy. I didn't want to distract from what mattered. Nathan stood at the center of everything. Press swarmed him with cameras and mics. Investors buzzed around in tightly tailored suits, holding champagne flutes and practicing compliments. My mother was there too, in a pearl gray gown, smiling like she'd built the place herself. The gala marked 10 years of Hart Foundation's flagship building. They called it a legacy milestone. The irony almost made me laugh. I didn't enter through the front. I stood just beyond the velvet ropes, beside a junior videographer adjusting his gimbal for the live stream. His camera caught everything: the red carpet, the stage, and more importantly, the building's facade behind it. At precisely 7:04 p.m., the spotlights rotated upward, bathing the structure in warm amber. The crowd turned to admire it, and that's when the new lettering appeared, freshly installed, newly lit, 10 feet high in bronze. Hart Foundation, founded and funded by Emily Hart. For a full 10 seconds, there was silence. Then came a ripple. Not a gasp, not a scream, just a collective intake of breath. Heads turned. Some looked confused. A few already had phones out, recording, zooming in. Someone muttered, "Is that real?" The MC, a local newscaster known for his polished delivery, blinked twice before recovering. "Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the visionary behind this evening, Nathan Hart." The applause was hesitant. Nathan walked up slowly. I watched him spot the letters. His eyes narrowed. He glanced toward my mother. She didn't clap. She didn't move. Just stared at the name like it had physically slapped her. Then came the moment that shifted everything. From the back, a reporter, maybe the same one who'd tagged the building weeks before, raised a mic. "Nathan, care to comment on the building attribution? Why does it say Emily Hart is the founder?" Nathan froze. His lips parted. Nothing came out. The MC tried to cover. "I'm sure that's just a clerical tribute, perhaps a dedication, not—" "Is she here tonight?" the reporter asked. "Can we speak with her directly?" And that's when I stepped forward. The crowd parted like something biblical. I walked through calmly, heels clicking against marble, not rushed, not timid, just enough pace to let the tension build. When I reached the stage, Nathan hadn't moved. I didn't take the microphone from the stand. I didn't need to. "I'm not here to embarrass anyone," I said. "I'm here because truth, when silenced too long, finds its own voice." The lights dimmed slightly, as if giving me space. I pulled a folded sheet from my coat and held it up. "This is a notarized copy of my father's will. He left this building to me, not Nathan, me." Gasps, murmurs. One man cursed under his breath. "I have documents proving I funded 70% of the startup capital. I also have emails, contracts, and a paper trail of financial manipulation." I paused. "All signed, all traceable." Someone in the front row pulled out a phone and started recording. Then another. "And if you're wondering why this wasn't known earlier, ask them." I nodded toward my mother, who now looked like the pearls on her neck were strangling her. "But," I continued, voice calm, "this isn't just about buildings or money or credit. It's about how easy it is to erase someone when they're a woman, when they're quiet, when they're family." The screen behind me lit up. A giant slide appeared, a quote from an investor email, recently declassified by my lawyer. "We agreed to fund the project because Emily Hart was involved. Without her, the vision didn't interest us." I let it linger. Nathan finally spoke. "Emily, this is not the place." "It's the perfect place," I cut in. "You said I was just a clerk, that I didn't matter, but you knew the truth. You just counted on me not speaking it." A wave of silence followed, then applause, soft at first, then rising, not loud, not roaring, but clear, enough. I stepped off the stage, my heart steady, my breath even. No tears, no gloating, just peace. Because for the first time they saw me. And I no longer needed to prove I belonged. The headlines came faster than I expected. What began as murmurs during the gala turned into a wave by sunrise. Hart Foundation under scrutiny for misrepresentation of ownership. Founder forged out of history, family power, corporate lies. Within days, Nathan's investors began pulling out. Not because I asked them to, but because none of them wanted to be the last one holding a sinking ship. His empire, propped up on my silence and his mother's manipulation, crumbled like a sandcastle facing tide. An official investigation was launched. The forged documents, once dismissed as minor clerical mix-ups, became evidence. His signature, my stolen access, the ghost transactions. Every detail I had quietly gathered now worked louder than any accusation I could have shouted. I didn't celebrate. Nathan released a statement claiming miscommunication within the family, trying to reframe the damage as a sibling spat. My mother, when stopped by reporters outside her house, gave a single line before shutting the door in their faces. Emily always had a flair for drama. When a local paper published a profile on the story, she finally spoke. "I just don't understand why she did this," she said. "We've always taken care of her. This is cruel, unnecessary." That stung more than I expected. Even after everything, part of me still wanted her to say, "I'm sorry," or maybe just, "You were right." But that part was dying now, slowly but surely. The twist came from where I least expected it, my cousin Jenna. We hadn't spoken in over a decade. She lived in Colorado, worked in environmental law, and had always kept her distance from the family chaos. She posted a screenshot on Facebook, messages between my mother and Nathan, planning how to hide the will, discussing how to change account access, calling me naive but manageable. The post went viral, and for the first time, I didn't have to defend myself. Others did it for me, strangers, old college friends, former colleagues. People who had seen me grind in silence for years now spoke up. "She built that company from the ground. She's not dramatic, she's disciplined." I watched from afar. I didn't give interviews, didn't post grand statements. I let the truth sit, heavy and quiet, the way they never let me. One morning, a week after the scandal broke, I stood at the edge of the ocean. The salt air wrapped around me. I knelt in the sand, let the wind pull at my coat, grabbed a handful of wet sand, and let it slip between my fingers. This wasn't victory. This was mourning. I had loved them once, deeply. I had laughed at Nathan's jokes, listened to my mother's stories over tea. I'd bought groceries, paid tuition, stayed up through their crises, and in return, they tried to erase me. I whispered to the tide, "I wish it hadn't come to this," but I didn't regret it. The fall was never mine. Still, it came with a cost. The attention was intoxicating and suffocating all at once. My inbox flooded, some praising, others condemning. One blog called me a snake in heels. Another said I was a symbol of every overlooked woman finally claiming her name. People I hadn't spoken to in years sent friend requests. Podcasts reached out. A publisher, a documentary team. Then an email from Ted. A talk, 15 minutes, global stage. I hesitated. Then I saw it. A letter, handwritten, no return address. Inside was a short note. "Dear Emily, I watched your story unfold. I'm 16. My parents have made me feel invisible for as long as I can remember. When I saw you speak, I realized I wasn't crazy. You gave me permission to matter. Thank you." There was no name, just, "Please don't stop. Some of us are still quiet, waiting to be brave." I held that letter to my chest, cried, not out of pain, but recognition. If I had to trade comfort for this, for a moment of light in someone else's darkness, I would. Without question, the building remained exactly where it stood, but the energy around it changed. Some advised me to rebrand, to tear down the name Heart Foundation and start fresh. But I refused. The name stayed, not as an honor, but as a reminder. A monument, not to what was built, but to what was buried and clawed back. I turned the top 3 floors into a support center, free legal clinics, therapy sessions, workshops on financial independence. A foundation not just for buildings, but for people like me. People who had given too much to people who gave too little in return. We called it the Second Voice Project. The mission was simple: to help those whose voices were stolen in silence, gaslit, guilted, ghosted by the people who were supposed to love them most. It grew fast. Emails came in from across the country. Women, men, teenagers, retirees, all with the same echo. I thought it was just me. I walked those halls every morning, nodded to the volunteers, listened to the clients. I didn't lead it with a bullhorn. I didn't need to. I led it with presence, with history. On one quiet afternoon, I locked my office door and pulled out a letter I had been trying to write for weeks. The paper was thick, the pen heavy in my hand. "Dear Dad," I began. "You didn't get to see the truth come to light, but I found it, I fought for it, and I made sure your words, your real words, weren't buried. I built something with your memory, with your trust. Thank you for seeing me when others didn't. I miss you." I folded the note, slid it into an envelope, and tucked it into the drawer beside the old will. That night, I slept without checking my phone. No news alerts, no email drafts, just sleep. A month later, I walked onto a stage that felt both enormous and familiar. The TED letters loomed behind me in red. I wore a simple navy dress, no script, just memory. "I used to be the ghost in every family photo," I said, the first line landing soft. "The one holding the camera, the one cleaning up the plates, the one funding the party, but not on the invite list." The room held its breath. I wasn't loud, but I was there, and for years I thought being quiet was the price of love. A pause. It's not. Another pause. I used to be the shadow, now I'm the spotlight. The applause was gentle at first, then steady. I smiled, but not for the stage, for the people watching from couches and cars and break rooms, whispering to themselves, "That's me." After the talk, a young woman approached me backstage. Slender frame, nervous eyes, a posture that screamed, "Don't notice me." But I saw her. She cleared her throat. "I sent you a letter once." It took me a second, then I knew. "The girl who said she wasn't crazy," I said. She nodded. "I'm looking for work," she said, eyes lowering. "I don't have much experience, but I know what this is. I know what it feels like." I didn't hesitate. "You're hired," she stared. "Doing what?" "Whatever you want to grow into." The next morning, she walked into my office carrying a notebook, a half-broken phone, and hope so fragile it looked like porcelain. I watched her sit at the same desk where, years ago, I had been told to stay quiet, to be grateful, to not ask questions. She didn't have to speak much. I already knew her story, because once it had been mine. As I looked around the office, same floors, same walls, I saw everything differently now. Not polished success, but reclaimed space. Every inch carved out by resistance. Every brick whispered, "You were never crazy." I turned back to the window, sunlight cutting through the glass. They once called me a clerk. Now, when people say my name, they do it carefully. Not because I asked them to, but because they finally know it was always mine. Don't fear when they call you no one. Sometimes the biggest name in the room is the one they're too afraid to say out loud.